Okay, folks, it's Sam, punctual as ever at 5 p.m. Pacific time, talking about February 2022. As you can see here, we're going to talking about shifts in relationships, career, spirituality, discipline, communication. All those things are up with Venus moving forward after being in retrograde. Again, sun is changing signs. It's also going to be close to Jupiter, which is going to really bring in a lot of spiritual promise, especially also with the shifts of Mars as it moves through Sagittarius and then goes into Capricorn at the end of the month. Also, which brings in these qualities of discipline or not being disciplined, and also communication, as Mercury is also starting the month retrograde and then will turn direct. So again, we're going to unpack all of that. Now, I want to just let people know to please like, share, and subscribe. I want to make sure to tell you that because, again, sometimes I forget, but it really helps a lot. Also, make a comment. Leave a comment if you like this, particularly on YouTube or other social media, because it raises it. Whoops! It raises it in the algorithm. The more people that comment and share and like, the higher it goes. And if you think this is good and people should watch it, then please do that. And just subscribe and click and ring the bell to get notified when I go live again. So this is very important. And something else too, as you see, there's a banner at the bottom that says Beginning Vedic Astrology, where it says begin, restore, or reset your Vedic astrology practice. I just dropped a link here in the chat. I am teaching a class here on March 5th and 6th and March 12th and 13th with my most esteemed faculty as well. And again, it's for all levels, but you'll also see me unfold the entire system of astrology that I've been teaching and that my students have been learning for the last, decade. And also the very latest research and, again, frameworks and organizing principles that I have, put forth in my practice. And so, again, I'm also teaching with 4 of my most esteemed faculty, as I said. And so you'll see the whole system of astrology laid out from the cosmology and the astronomy to planets and signs to all of the Vedic yogic principles. So again, this is really some of the best knowledge, if not the best knowledge that you will really find in your life. It really teaches you who you are, why you're here. And again, it's not that expensive, $79. And if you register now, you even get all of these great bonuses, like more than 10 hours of bonus classes right now. So you don't have to wait until March 5th and 6th to even benefit. Some really great classes available now for all levels. So this is a great thing. So please take advantage of that. BeginningVedicAstrology.com is where you can find that. So let's look at this chart here and take a look at where we're at. So this is the chart for January 31st. That will be yesterday. So now we have, so we're going to move this forward. Oops, what do we have here? Birth chart. Okay. So you see this is, that's a week. Want it to be a day. Okay. So as we go through, we'll see this is today, February 1st. And as you see, Venus is now moved direct as we start the month. Venus and Mars pretty close here in Sagittarius. And you'll see Mars will even be gaining on Venus here because Venus is stationed. It's actually not moving very fast. So you'll see that Mars is actually going to come right up on Venus within the next week or so and be like very close, within 1 degree, and even pass it and be in what's called a planetary war. You see here on this day, they're exact 2243, 2243. This is on February 16th. So you could see Venus and Mars, and then Mars even passes Venus and then goes into Capricorn first here on the 26th, and then Venus goes into Capricorn on the 27th. So again, this is the saga of Venus and Mars in February of 2022, starting off very close to each other. It's still close. It's still even starts off about 6 degrees, but then again, the gap closes. So what does this mean? Well, again, Venus, of course, is the planet of relationship, of our agreements of communication and well, not really communication, that's Mercury, but how we negotiate our agreements. This is the biggest thing that Venus shows, and what kind of agreements we're able to make. And again, that capacity to make a good agreement is really tested the most in our romantic relationships, but also in our business relationships, in any situation where two adults or adult entities want something from the other person, like a business agreement, right? And we've seen some pretty interesting stuff here in the last, some of the big news of the world recently is with this, like Spotify and Joe Rogan and Neil Young and whatnot. All of this, again, you could say, well, that's not Venus, that's like Mercury and all this. Some of it's Mercury. Mercury is the back and forth and the communication about it, but Venus is the agreement part, which has to do with values, money, respect, self-respect, respecting the whatever it might be. If we don't feel like we're respected or appreciated, or that our values, ding, 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 big Venus keyword, are respected, then we might want to just end that agreement and say, you know what? Like we had the recent thing with Neil Young saying, you know what? This message, this agreement that I have with this music company, Spotify, this agreement is not working for me anymore. That having this other person on the platform who is not being respectful and of a dialogue or whatever it might be. And again, I'm just pointing this out. You can have your opinion on what you think of it, but this is Venus in action. Venus has been retrograde. Mercury's been retrograde. And the part of the Rogan, Neil Young, Spotify thing agreement from, let's say from Neil Young's point of view, is like, I don't want to keep this agreement going because my values, which values, being careful with propaganda or whatever it might be, is not being respected. So I want to end the agreement. By the way, it's like a relationship, right? I don't want to be in a relationship with the person who is blah, blah, blah. So in fact, even what Neil Young did is said, basically, it's me or him. Again, Mars, again, it's very Venus and Sagittarius as well, particularly based on my values, all right? Venus had been in Sagittarius, Mars comes in, and Neil Young literally comes out and says, you have to choose. It can't be both. Think of if it was like a relationship, and it's Neil Young's relationship with Spotify, and Spotify saying, okay, well, I want you on the platform, but I also want this person who's going to say all of that. And Neil Young is saying, yeah, but you can't have both, okay? This other thing is totally against my values. Again, I'm not advocating either way, but that's what Neil Young is saying. And then, so you have to decide. So then Spotify said, okay, I decide not to do it with you and still do it with them, right? And then other people might say the same thing. And then, so again, you can see these kind of business agreements. And also with Venus in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is about our principles. It's the principle of the thing, right? And so, again, this is a lot of what our relationships and our agreements have been about as well recently. We can see a kind of compromising and a kind of sliding on our values that we wind up doing often when we have a romantic relationship. If we have to compromise our, let's say, our spirituality or our religion, it's one of the oldest things in the book. Now, because we live a very secular life, most of us, we don't have these big religious disagreements, but that's a huge thing. If people are Orthodox religious, even people that are very, like, let's say, hardcore Catholic, and they're going to get married in the Catholic Church or Christian, often one will convert to the other in order to accommodate the wedding and whatnot, right? Again, religion, which is Sagittarius, and relationship, which is Venus. Notice how this stuff breaks up relationships. Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump, converted to Judaism to accommodate, I guess, the Jared thing, right? So you see this happen all the time. Hindus and Muslims, or Christians and Hindus, or whatever it might be, right? These things can end relationships, right? Or we compromise, just even if it's not religious, even just my, like my partner's beliefs and values aren't in alignment with mine. So Venus, if we feel like in Venus areas, we've been accommodating people and relationships and having agreements in situations where we're not being appreciated or that are especially incongruent with our beliefs, then those things have been very pressured this last month as Venus has been retrograde in Sagittarius. So again, now she's going to move forward, But again, we see Mars has now joined the battle. And again, I mentioned the Neil Young Spotify thing because we saw when that happened. Again, Mars, again, that thing happened since Mars went into Sagittarius. I don't remember the exact time that Neil Young came out and said that, but it was somewhere, I guess, around this time. You can look up the date, about a week ago or something, right? And again, that's Mars in Sagittarius going, that's it. And you see how it's interrupting Venus, the agreement. So the agreement gets broken, right? And so again, you see Venus was retrograde on the 26th, 27, 28, 29. Venus turned forward, and now it's going direct, but it's actually what's called stationary direct. It's not actually moving. You see the degrees. 1654 on the 29th, 1656. I mean, that's nothing. That's like not moving at all. 17, that's like 4/10 of a degree. It's basically stationary. So this is why Mars will keep gaining on it. Here on the 31st, or here on the 1st, Venus is 1707, Mars is 11. 1716, Mars is now 12.5. So again, Venus and Mars, it's going to get closer. So you can watch your agreements this whole month, like I just started, can have even more of that sort of contentiousness with it throughout the month of February. So this could be something that you could be dealing with this whole month with this sort of contentiousness between the your relationships and the agreements that you make and your values. Hey, here it says, Angela Sanders, I know you, visiting La Jolla from Austin. Whoa, no kidding. I remember you, Angie, long time ago. I'm not far from La Jolla. Good. See, I actually know some people in real time as well. Crazy, huh? So maybe Angie Sanders will come. So now, again, we have this Mercury is retrograde, and Mercury turns retrograde on the 4th. I mean, direct on the 4th. I think it's the middle of the 3rd, but by the 4th, again, when the planet stops going retrograde, it actually stations. So it's stationary direct. So it actually kind of stops in the sky for a while. And by the way, the whole time, like with that, over the weekend when that Rogan thing was going on and Spotify, Venus was actually stationary. It was like stationary, direct, stationary, and stopped, right? So it was pretty much stopped in the sky for close to a week. It kind of just stops there. So that whole time when that situation came to a head, Mars is moving up and Venus has been stationary, kind of like stopping things, right? And then it starts to move forward again. So again, as we go throughout the month, I already said this in a prediction in a video I did on Rogan. You can find that on my channel. But I basically said, I made some pretty quick predictions, but they came true pretty fast, a lot faster than I thought. I said that I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Spotify, and they're pressuring Rogan, and he's going to come out and probably have to apologize and own up to the fact that he's really gotten off his game, and he just kind of got confused and not as objective anymore, and he needs to reel it in a little bit. So you're seeing there's been more backlash even against, he had Jordan Peterson on doing crazy climate science stuff. And also, again, you see how this stuff, there's going to be more stuff coming forward. There's some backlash from Black artists as well, because he started thinking when he had Jordan Peterson saying, what does it even mean to be Black, and just weird stuff. Again, he's been under the influence of this Rahu transit. And again, you're seeing how that's also been part of the retrograde thing that's going on. And by the way, I'm just using this because it's a newsworthy thing. It's been, very much news of the world. But there's another couple things that have also happened, particularly the big sort of truckers in Canada, that gigantic, it's actually Mercury retrograde and also Venus retrograde, because Venus rules transportation. And it's kind of crazy that we have seen this whole kind of transportation truckers thing happening in Canada while Venus has been retrograde. And Venus rules vehicles because we sit down in a vehicle, and it's called a conveyance, where we sit in a vehicle and then the power of the vehicle takes us where we're going, even though we can sit comfortably. This is why Venus rules vehicles, because it also rules comforts. And, we're just sitting in the vehicle and the vehicle is taking us somewhere. But the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde were both happening. But we can see that kind of reversal, and where our words catch up with us and we have to make an adjustment. We have to apologize. We might embarrass ourselves. Classic Mercury retrograde with the Rogan thing, but also again with the seeing like that transportation crisis and whatnot in Canada. Maybe with both of these planets moving direct again, we'll start to see that start to move forward again. That's not a hard prediction because I haven't looked that much into it, but I'm just looking at some things in the news where we can see some of this playing out. But you can also see here, even on February 4th, which is not too far away, Sun and Saturn is totally combust. So I talked about the combustion of Saturn and these combust planets. I talked about that last week, I think, and that this is definitely when the planets get combust, they also get very activated. And in this case, it's a combust Saturn in Capricorn. So it really activates a sense of purpose, concentrated effort, humility. Again, notice, I'm coming back to the Rogan thing because it's been very, very evident and very vocal. And, Rogan was like, I'm a king. I'll do what I want. I'll do what I want. I do my research. I'll say this. I'm just having conversations. And he's been really humbled. The king has been humbled. And again, one of the things in the case study that I did was Rahu was going through his first house, and Rahu is the kind of counterfeit king. Yeah, I'm powerful. I'm the king. What's happening is, though, the sun is very close to Saturn saying, oh, really? Time to get humbled. And Mercury is retrograde. Venus is retrograde. Time to rethink that story in our head, which is what I always talk about with Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde going forward, in addition to Venus going forward, is now getting us more clear about that story, right? Now Rogan has a more clear version of the story. A few days ago, he really didn't. Shockingly, he came out yesterday apologizing, and it was a pretty humbling apology. Okay, you're right. I have to be more careful. I have to be more responsible. I agree to have warning labels put on my podcast. And by the way, part of it also came down to money. Let's be clear. Because I'm sure there's a stipulation in his contract that Spotify can cancel his contract if it gets too out of hand. Of course, they can always get out of it. That's not what they want, but he got humbled. So again, these are all things that have to do with these retrograde planets, with all of this, Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde. Being more respectful of people. Like he was just kind of being disrespectful. Again, I'm using this as an example so you can see it in your life as well. Getting that story straight, which has been the Mercury retrograde, right? What are you telling yourself about who you are and what your life is and what you're communicating? Again, classic Mercury retrograde here. Classic Mercury retrograde problem. And Saturn combust. Because what Saturn combust is Saturn is, and it's in Capricorn. It's not Saturn combust in Leo, where Saturn is doing really bad. It's Saturn combust in Capricorn, where, again, the sun is empowering Saturn, and Saturn is humbling the sun. Saturn humbles the king, particularly when the sun is in Capricorn and with Saturn. So again, Saturn has been humbling us all for the last few years, ever since he went into Capricorn. Have you felt humbled since the beginning of 2020? Yeah, it's been Saturn. And again, you can say Pluto all you want and all this stuff, but this has been Saturn from day one with the COVID stuff. And some people like myself said, we're at least going to be feeling locked down and feeling pressured and having to rethink our values, our priorities, our money, what our real power is, make peace with ourselves in solitude and benefit or go crazy because now we're alone. This is all Saturn virtues. And the real benefit since the COVID era has been for us to really come to grips with our solitude and really, shine a light on what we do when we're in solitude and by ourselves, right? So Saturn is the king in that regard. So again, Saturn has been humbling the sun. So even though the sun has Saturn combust here, which I'll talk about a little more in a second, it's also mainly showing a kind of humbling effect. Also because Saturn is ruling Mercury. This Mercury retrograde happened in Saturn's sign. So again, we can see the humbling effect. So wherever it is in your life where you've been kind of shooting your mouth off and arrogant and all this kind of stuff, maybe you've been humbled lately, or seen those around you get humbled. Again, we just had a great example of that, and again, I haven't looked as much into the truckers' strike as another big news story in Canada or whatnot, but there's probably a correlation there with government officials and whatnot being brought to task. But these, this is a sort of pervasive theme. Again, we've also seen in the last few weeks, or even in the last couple months, like the other powerful figures like Biden in the U.S. and others getting humbled, and so very, very much a hallmark of this Capricorn theme. And as you can see, as we go into February, Mercury is going to start moving forward again. So to kind of stay on the Rogan theme as a kind of everyman theme, it'll be an opportunity, for him, with Venus and Mercury both direct again now, for him to actually get back on something that's more like what he should be doing. Frankly, he should be doing things that are, he's a dude who likes to have conversations about interesting things, and he's gotten out of his lane. He's not an epidemiologist. He's not a research scientist. He shouldn't be acting like he's this hardcore mad scientist researcher who is calling everybody out and bringing the task and this big truth teller. He's out of his lane. It's not what he should be doing, particularly with the way he's gotten so biased. So again, he's gotten so biased with some of the people that he's had on, he hasn't even been objective. And that's been the problem. So it's an opportunity for him to get back in his lane and start having some good conversations again, man. We can leave this conspiratorial stuff to other people. Start talking about things that are interesting and get back in your groove, which is why people liked him anyway. People didn't listen to him because he was this conspiracy theorist monger. Again, whether you think that's accurate or not, what anybody could say, even in an objective sense, is that he didn't apply the same kind of scrutiny to those controversies, even like he did recently with Jordan Peterson. So again, it's a time for him to correct, which is what Mercury direct is going to be. After we go through the retrograde and the confusion, again, see this in your life, not just with the thing with Rogan, but see this in your life of how you've gotten the message wrong. You've gotten off message. So you need to pay more attention to these things. You need to pay more attention to what you're communicating. It's not a given that people just want to listen to you. It's not a given that you just get to say what you get to say. You have to listen as well. You need to listen, right? And again, this is what Mercury and Venus retrograde is all about. Venus retrograde is like, you need to pay attention to the value that you're putting out. It's not just about your values and what you want to get from it, but it's what's the message coming back from other people? Are you honoring other people's values? Which is the Venus retrograde. Mercury retrograde is, it's not just about you, what you want to say, but it's about what do others say? What is the consensus? What is the curious and correct message? And so with these two planets moving forward, this is a great, that scenario is a great situation to where we can, see these things playing out. So as I've already said, Venus and Mercury, Mercury goes direct. It stops being retrograde on the 4th, and Venus is already direct. So again, we can see that. And so moving forward, if we watch Mercury moving forward, again, it goes throughout the month. It's in Capricorn the whole month, right? And this is, around the end of the month, it gets much closer to Saturn, Mercury, Saturn. When we get at the end of the month, we're going to have a big pile up here in Capricorn. See, on the 27th, Mercury, Saturn are still pretty close. So this is why I said, even at the beginning of 2022, that Mercury spends about, almost 3 months 2 months in Capricorn at the beginning of the year. And that's great because Mercury does very well in Capricorn, especially because it's also joined Saturn. So this is really a time now, this first part of the year, through the month of February, to get real about how you communicate and listen to others and be responsible for your words. Again, responsibility is Capricorn. Mercury is your words. And again, just to button it up, Rogan hadn't been doing that. He's been very irresponsible. And as I said in my forecast, it started, I think, when he got the COVID, and then the media started bashing him for ivermectin and the horse dewormer. And I think he just kind of lost his mind a little bit and just lost his objectivity. And that's why his value has gone down, right? So he can get it back. He had a good apology. That's, again, this is exactly the kind of stuff I said we need to do sometimes. He owned up to it, and I commend him for it, because I like him. But people get off track. He's a good public example of this. That's why I'm talking about it. So, and I hope that him in particular can be a great lesson in how to be responsible about these things now in this gotcha culture. And not just him as an example, but all of us, especially, again, this Mercury and Capricorn is really to be responsible for our words. And if we need to apologize and whatnot, do all of that. But as you can see, as we get around the end of the month, Mars and Venus are going to get close, like I already said, and we could be pretty fired up again and be pretty fired up about our principles and stuff. So watch this coming. So again, we also have this shift around the middle of the month where the sun moves into Aquarius in the middle of the month, right? On the 13th or so, the sun moves into Aquarius. And again, the sun moving into Aquarius is where our energy becomes more universalized, right? Instead of being the quality of Capricorn that's about trying to survive it internally and deal with the emotional pressure of our mistakes and guilt and stress, right? We deal with that in Capricorn, and then we take it forward into something more public and something more transcendent and universal in Aquarius, right? And something more universal in Aquarius. Sorry, one second. And yeah, by the way, just to say, someone said, I like Rogan, but you're bringing up valid points. Yeah, I like him too. And the valid point is just this, is that we all get off track. The problem isn't that he had the people on and then he had the conversations. It's just the way he had them. It was very unbalanced. Like he didn't check any of it. And these people, even especially like the two doctors that he had on, it was all just a lot of social commentary and a lot of just ungrounded conspiratorial thinking. And like Rogan himself said, he said the things that I said he should do. Like, if you're really going to be open-minded, don't just have them on saying that. Have some people on that oppose that and let them speak too. If you want to just let them speak, that's fine to let them speak. You don't have to, beat them up and rake them over the coals, but you should ask them about things they should be accountable for, but then also have other people on that oppose that. That's open-minded. And by the way, that's what Rogan said. So his apology was great. He said, and maybe what I should be doing is blah, 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 is not just having them on, but then have the other people on with the opposing view and blah, blah, which, by the way, this is all I said in my video on Rogan. Again, we all have to be more open-minded, folks. And there are people who I already know, because I know what happens. They just hate me now for even saying this kind of stuff because, oh, you don't like Rogan, I hate you now. I didn't even say that. It's about being open. And again, him presenting himself as being open, which he had been much more before, it definitely shifted, right? And he obviously realized it. And he realized it because he doesn't want Neil Young coming out hating him. This is how we learn this stuff. He's like, wait a minute, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I got Neil Young hating me, these other people hating me, and Spotify, I'm sure, was coming down going, look, man, you can't do this. You have to get some grip on this, okay? We're behind you, but we're not, So anyway, the point of the matter is that's all I was saying as well. And that's what he realized. So at this point, honestly, people don't even have any reason to be hating on me for what I said, because Rogan's already come out and admitted all the stuff I already said. So again, that's even the part that I felt kind of redeemed, because it's not just that I got a prediction right, but he came out and said all the stuff that I was saying as well. That's all I've been saying. I don't think he should be canceled. I don't think there's anything wrong with having people on the show, but you can't just be that irresponsible. And all of that power without any responsibility is just immature. So again, that's the other big thing about Saturn. What Saturn is doing is making us mature. This is a big thing, even about that whole situation. He wanted to just be the kind of pothead. Oh, I'm just a pothead saying what? I can say what I want. I can say what I want. Look, dude, those days are over. It's over. If you're going to have this platform and this much power, all that power without responsibility is just immaturity. You can't have it both ways. And by the way, you can't act like you're right about everything. And then when you're wrong, act like, oh, well, what? Oh, what do I know? I'm just some pothead comedian. Oh. Well, then stop talking like you're an authority then. So again, it was just way too immature and ungrounded. So it was really Rogan growing up right in front of us, I think. I mean, that's what I think. It was like, yeah, I'm sorry. And, so it's a really good lesson, even for all of these transits, even again, to really see it. And I think, and he's a good guy, and he's a good mirror reflection, because he's kind of like, a very transparent dude. And I think he's done a good job here. So people hating on me, stop hating on me. Rogan confirmed everything I said. Okay, so anyway, enough about that. So, but Saturn moving from Capricorn, which is about responsibility for ourselves more than anything, and mainly the responsibility to own things emotionally, psychologically, and really own that part of us that's scared of being alone and frustrated, like worried that we're going to not have enough money, or being frustrated and really worried about the past, and guilt and the pressure of time kind of bearing down on us. It's a real kind of psychological, pressure that comes through Capricorn. We have to deal with that pressure. Like, we have to manage that pressure. And we really feel the pressure in Capricorn. That's why we've been feeling a lot of that. And again, to button it up, we've been feeling it since COVID, because Saturn moved into Capricorn, right? And Jupiter was there for, off and on for a year until a few months ago, for about a year and a half, off and on until a few months ago. And, Mars was there, and Mars is about to go back there again. This will be much more in the March forecast. But so we've been dealing a lot with the Capricorn energy, but Sun goes into Aquarius. We also have a lot of Aquarius energy now, because Jupiter is there. And again, Aquarius is after we've grown up and taken responsibility for ourselves and looked at and introspected and said, okay, yeah, I need to manage my fear, stress, worry. Once we do that, or relative to how well we do that, Aquarius is the next level of of Saturn, where we now share that with the world, right? I've worked through my pathology and my fear of loneliness and being alone. Now I want to share that. And I want to concentrate on causes that are bigger than just my own happiness and my own stresses and fears and worries, and those little things that I can control and manage in my own world. So when the Sun moves into Aquarius, or any planets move into Aquarius, they've just been through Capricorn. Now they're in Aquarius. Now, particularly these slower moving planets like Jupiter and Saturn. Again, Jupiter is now in Aquarius, but he had spent a year and a half or so off and on going through Capricorn. So then when he goes into Aquarius, we were supposed to bring these lessons along with us. Where, again, while Jupiter's in Capricorn, I was talking about it's not just about being all inspired by your teachings, which is Jupiter and Sagittarius, but you need to concentrate on them and commit to them in Capricorn. So that's what we were learning while Jupiter was in Capricorn. Really own up to those teachings and inspirations. So relative to how well we've owned up to our teachings and inspirations, we can then share them with the world when they go into Aquarius. This is the progression. So Jupiter in Aquarius is often people that like to teach, or they like to connect with society and culture in an uplifting and empowering way, right? And so again, the Sun is going to go into Aquarius after having just gone through Capricorn, like we're doing, humbled. Again, this is one of the biggest things. We get humbled, and life is going to humble us. And no one gets humbled like the Sun in us. The arrogance of, I'm going to live forever. I'm powerful. Oh, yeah? Really? So then from that place of being humbled, we then become of service. So the highest quality of Aquarius is that service. After we're humbled, we become grateful, and we want to serve, and we want to serve a higher cause than just our own glory, our own individuality, our own false power in this world. Because our power in this world is limited. We only have so much of it. And the real power is not even in things of the world. It's things that are transcendent of the world. So again, in Capricorn, we go in, and what we should be doing now, this is till February 15th, but since the middle of January, what we should be doing is that Sun in Capricorn, particularly with Saturn there, is being introspective and finding that light within, that inner radiance, that inner power, inner strength, what's called tejas, the spiritual aspect of fire, not pitta, which is the deranged fire, but tejas, which is the glorious fire, agni, that illuminates our entire being from within. That yogic principle of fire, that yogic fire is the same energy that moves through the kundalini and through the subtle body. So this Sun with Saturn in Capricorn, again, and we have it here for a while, particularly now that Saturn is combust. Again, being humbled externally just means that our ego gets crushed and our ego gets humbled. What that means is that, okay, I realize I'm not this big, powerful figure. Again, look at Rogan as an example, getting humbled. So now I need to introspect and find that real power within. Again, this is an absolute great placement for things like yoga, spiritual practice, harnessing the energy of the breath and the mind, and moving the real power through the subtle body, through the astral body. So rather than being, crying the blues because we lost some external battle or getting into some external struggle, we can find the inner strength and the inner power to illuminate those different qualities of our mind and consciousness. I'm going to take a little break because people are saying to please hit the thumbs up. Yes, I'm going to do it. Thank you, folks, for reminding me. I am going to say, please do like and share, leave a comment as well. I am doing this because some people in the chat are even saying the same thing. And yes, I do forget to say it. And I appreciate people saying that hit the thumbs up and all that. I really do. It does help. I get carried away and I forget to mention these things. Some people ask me, why don't you have more subscribers? You should have more subscribers. Why don't you have more subscribers? Part of it is I forget to say this stuff. So by you liking and sharing and subscribing, ringing the bell, leaving a comment, it definitely helps. So thank you. By the way, also just also a quick plug with the thing that you see at the at the bottom, this beginning Vedic astrology. So many people here, again, these courses are not above your head. They're not just beginning, but they're also for people of all levels, because I'm going to break down the entire system that shows how Vedic astrology is organized from the very beginning. You might think you understand it all. Oh, planets, signs, I know all that stuff. You probably don't really understand the structure and how it's laid out. So when you sign up now, you get some great bonus classes that are available right now that'll teach you amazing things about your zodiac, about your sign, also about the lunar nodes and all kinds of stuff. So please also check that out. So let me take a quick drink here as well. But so again, I appreciate people's comments there. And if you have some comments to share as well, people are saying this is so spot on and helpful. Let me know how. How's it been spot on and helpful so far? Because again, we're all going through these things. And again, the reason I point to some things in the world, even though sometimes they're a little controversial and people get weird, is because we can see this living astrology playing out in our lives. So I like the I appreciate people that said they already did. Like Timothy said he did already, thumbs up. Shauna said, can the dynamic with Sun and Saturn plot where we discover that we're giving away our power to others and show they need to take more responsibility? Yeah, it can be. Of course, it can be. But again, more so than that, again, giving up more power and all, again, things are complex. Many times the giving up more power in our life is usually a Venus thing. And we do it because we want the connection to the person. We don't just give up our power. We give up our power because we have desires. You have desires. You have more of a desire to be connected to that person than to express yourself. So you're doing it. The part of you that's giving up your power, though, isn't the sun. So again, what it what the Sun Saturn would show is that you're aware of it now, because the Sun says, I'm not powerful here. I realize where I'm not powerful. So instead of looking at it for the Sun, you look at it for Venus, which is, why did you make this agreement to be in an unempowered place? And I'll tell you why. I can answer it, because you wanted the connection more than you wanted your power. The connection and compromising in order to have the connection was more important to you than your values, than sticking up for your values, because it's not just your power, it's your values. There are certain values that you decided aren't as important as the connection. And rather than break connection in order to assert the values, or what you're calling your power, you'd rather have the connection. And at some point it changes. It's not like that forever, but this is more of a struggle between Venus and Mars. And again, I already talked about later in the month, you're going to feel more of this frustration. As we get more later in the month, you're going to get angry, because as Venus and Mars gets closer, or this is welcome to your Valentine's Day. If this is a romantic partnership, look at that, Valentine's Day, exact combustion. Woo! Thank God I don't have a girlfriend right now. Boy, oh boy, would there be some fireworks. Man, oh man, we'd be going at it. You never pay attention to me. I'd be in deep trouble with that placement on Valentine's Day, man. I'd be dead. So people who are doing this kind of thing, particularly in a romantic relationship, the reason you do that and we give up our power is because we want the connection. So this is basically, with the Sun Saturn, it's more about a transcendent power of just realizing that you're a powerful being. And again, it's showing the need to not waste your time in these other kinds of things as well. But that's a good question. And again, it's very easy to not understand where the energy is coming from. So again, the Sun, there's a big shift that's happening in February, in the middle of February, as you can see. Once the Sun leaves Capricorn, what you want to do between now and like February 13th or so, the next couple weeks or so, is really dial in the thing that I talked about. I talked about that. That's the thing to focus on, not the thing. And I answered the question because it's very easy to get confused. But that other thing is more of a Venus agreement thing, Venus and Mars agreement, not a Sun Saturn. The Sun Saturn is really something much more higher level. But what's happening is that the Sun is realizing in you, is being humbled. You're feeling humbled by it. And then that compromise, that trade-off doesn't feel as worth it. Right? So instead, what we need to do is really connect with that, again, that pure power. That's a transcendent power. Right? And again, through the yoga practices, this is key. If you don't have spiritual practice, you need to do them. Right? And this is great for it. It's not just like, do it against your will. People do spiritual practices because they're trying to get something from it. Okay, if I do spiritual practice, all right, then I'll feel better. Again, you do it against your will, you're not going to do it that often. But when you do it and it feels great after you learn how to do it, and you can't wait to sit down and do that practice and feel and see that beloved deity in your mind and connect with that, connect your heart to that, feel that beloved deity, say those beautiful mantras, breathe like that, and feel the peace descend in your being and consciousness. Nobody has to tell you to do it. They have to drag you away from it, right? So this Sun Saturn is really powerful for that, for doing that and enjoying doing that. And so between now and the middle of February, really connect, because as you see, Saturn and the Sun, this ascendant out of here. Let me move this ascendant out of the way. Okay. So you can see the Sun Saturn here, very powerful. This is the 9th. They're almost, even if you go back earlier, even like the 6th, they're like exact degrees, right? So even right now, Sun and Saturn are right on top of each other. So between now and the end of the year, they're still right on top of each other. Saturn is still very combust. All right, another drink. So the sun is invigorating Saturn energy. So a big part of you wants to withdraw from the world. This is also why you felt like going, ugh, I need to withdraw from the world. I need to, you know, yeah, just not so enthusiastic at all about like, we're feeling kind of lazy, right? Feeling kind of lazy. One of the things I talked about last week, I think it was gas, right? Sun, Saturn, combustion. We had a little commentary on gas, right? That's what I'm talking about. But gas, it's like slowing down the fire and not feeling so fired up, wanting to just maybe sleep a little more and that kind of thing. But again, the power is once you do get up, instead of having Saturn depress that fired up, I'm this ego, this powerful person, rather than go, oh no, I'm not, I'm depressed now, I'm sad. Connect with the truth that's transcendent. And in this way, the sun empowers the Saturn part, just like it's going to empower the Jupiter in a minute, which I am going to get to. But the sun empowers the Saturn part. And the Saturn part is solitude, stillness, peace, because Saturn is the one with peace. And the reason you have no peace is because you have no control over the Saturn stuff. Because you're afraid. You're afraid of being alone. You're afraid of what happens, of the things you don't know. It scares you. So as long as you're in fear, you have no peace. This is why Saturn is called Shani, which is the same root word as Shanti. And the sun activating Saturn is activating the capacity for peace. But you have to do the practice as well. It's not just capacity for peace. Oh, yay. Yeah, that means you have to sit down, be quiet, close your eyes, and actually do what Saturn has you do. All the planets have an action. The action of Saturn is, I like to say in a very crass way, sit down, shut up, close your eyes, be quiet. That's what it's saying. It's saying do that. Do more of that. And so, one second. And so this will continue now. We go into the middle of February, and it shifts from the introspection of Capricorn to the public contribution and alignment and universal, showing up in service to larger causes and whatnot, not just personal power, but now collective power, because I now realize that my personal power isn't derived from some kind of individual power struggle or situation. My real power is something that's transcendent. So now I'm going to use that individuality for something that's collective, that's in service of something higher, right? And by the way, this is the things like the Rogans of the world are the way he sees himself as I'm doing a service. It's not about me. It's about this higher good. And by the way, I think that's in many ways his seed kind of motivation, right? And the reason he got sideways is because he stopped doing that. I think he got angry because of the Horst Wormer stuff that was being said. And he felt angry and embarrassed and said, okay, you want to embarrass me? I'm going to come after you guys. And that's what happened. And he got really kind of sideways. And now he's come back, hopefully more humbled and more of service again. So again, just as an example for all of us, like, yes, this is how Capricorn becomes Aquarius. We get humbled, and then we become empowered in the true light, and then we want to share the light. So again, from the middle of February to the middle of March, this sun goes through Aquarius. Now, as you can see, he's also going to get close to Jupiter. Now, again, at this point, Jupiter starts to be combust. I believe it's around 10 degrees. It's pretty... he can deal with the combustion pretty well. It might even be less than that. I think maybe somebody can put what the combustion degrees are. I don't actually remember off the top of my head. But Jupiter can handle the sun getting very close because Jupiter is big. Jupiter is sattvic. He's very pure, and it's easy for Jupiter to handle a lot of that heat of the sun without getting fried a little bit in it, right? Mars and Saturn are the ones that have the widest combustion orb. I believe Jupiter is the least. And Venus and Mercury are also pretty wide, especially Venus. But Jupiter, again, when the sun empowers when Jupiter's combust, again, it can show some touchiness around you know, religion and our beliefs, but again, it empowers the planet. I generally take combustion as being quite favorable for mundane events. It burns off the impurities of the thing, but ultimately it's empowering that energy. It's different than retrograde. It's the opposite. Again, both of them have power, but especially for mundane events and what the planet produces, retrograde can tend to delay it and obstruct it, and combust tends to empower it. Like, for example, sun getting close to Jupiter, this could be a time when people actually get empowered to, like, actually, you know, do something like take a class, which, by the way, if you want to take a class, take this one. You really should. People that have been gathering information and stuff, you'll get 30 hours, 30, 40 hours of classes, $79. Come on, you get access to a bunch of these classes right now. What else are you doing? You should learn this stuff. You should learn it properly. But something like Sun Jupiter tends to empower the thing and make someone go, yeah, it's true, and inspire the thing. Now, again, what it does, though, is it burns off the impurities of, like, the bad teachings, like the lower qualities, right? Like, for example, with the Sun Saturn that we just had, it's burning off the impurities that come from the false commitments or the commitments that aren't really worthwhile. And in so doing, we find, instead of being committed to some egoistic stupidity or whatever it is, we say, no, that was a mistake. We get humbled, and then we recommit to what we should be committed to. Again, that's Saturn combusting. I'm sorry, that's the Sun combusting Saturn, because Saturn is about our commitments and whatnot. Jupiter is about our teachings and our wisdom and what we're looking for to be, you know, what's teaching us, what's guiding us. And again, I talk about this with the astrology. People, you know, snack on videos and they have some teachings here and there, but they won't just learn it correctly, see it all laid out for you. And again, so something like Sun Jupiter can really empower that. Now, again, retrograde Jupiter may be a little different. It doesn't mean it can as well, because when it's retrograde, then we reflect on it, but we might hesitate more and be like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. That's what retrograde does. Combustion empowers it. The sun is blasting it out toward us. So this could be a great time for your teachings, higher wisdom, as the sun goes through Aquarius. You can see this is even by the 28th. They're very close to each other. And then in continuum. So, by the way, this is one of the reasons I had the class at this time, because I know people are going to feel much more empowered as we get closer to this course. As we get close to the date, the first weekend is March 5th or 6th. And look at March 5th, exact Sun Jupiter conjunction. This is one of the reasons why I taught on this weekend. I'm not stupid. That's why I look at this stuff. And at that weekend, boom, it's going to be a time. So this means that people that are coming, this being the Muhurta, is going to be a great time to be empowered through this stuff. You're going to feel very empowered at this time to really learn. And again, so what it does is it also burns off the impurities of your bad teachings. And by the way, that doesn't mean bad astrologers, but your bad philosophies where you're like, oh, I'll just study myself. I'll just do that. I'll just do that. My chart is this. And all these ideas you think you have that are actually uplifting you, and they're really not. They're probably not. You have a lot of philosophies about things, and you probably don't have very good ones, because most of us don't, unless we really learn something correctly. And there's very few teachings that are really properly laid out that really deliver. And even them, you got to be careful, because some people can maybe the teachings are great, but they're not being delivered very well. So anyway, this is what Sun Jupiter, and again, I'm using my class as an example because it happens to be here. And yeah, I think you should get it. It'll definitely help you organize and understand how astrology is laid out. But aside from that, it could be finding a guru. People ask me all the time, how do I find a guru, like spiritual guru, or your spiritual teachings can go to the next level? And the sun is going to purify that by illuminating it and burning off the impurities that are associated with, like, let's say some of the bad teachings that you've had. Again, and a lot of it is, you know, you wind up, let's say, with difficult teachings because they also play into your mind. Many times people, and by the way, I'm just going to say this, they, especially with astrology, they wind up really gravitating toward the astrologers. They kind of dumb things down a lot and sensationalize things a lot because that's kind of where they're at. And they like it. And I don't mean that in a negative way or that the astrologers are dumb or whatever, but this is why the very cheeseball introductory level stuff is often the most popular and winds up being, again, it's another reason people say, why don't you have more subscribers? Partly because I get on here and actually really talk about it in a deep way. And you don't know how many people are like, God, will you just get to the point? Will you just make it simple? This is too complicated. Sorry. I mean, I don't think it's that complicated, but we find the teacher that we're looking for. That's the point. The very simple, like, what about my chart? I have this. I have this. Make it simple. Tell me something give me a piece of candy that I can snack on. That's the guru we wind up finding. But then what happens is these are the teachings that teach us the thing that keeps us right where we are. So again, when combustion happens, it burns off a lot of those impurities and we can go, wait a minute, maybe I'm not getting anywhere with this. Because again, then you're trying to find a deep answer in something that has no depth, a teacher or whatever, where there's no system, there's no depth, there's no system to it. And you're wondering why. You're just really going nowhere with it. You're just wasting the opportunity and frankly, wasting your time. One of the things I found with people, and it's why I say this, who study my courses, like, something like this, is that you can spend the same amount of time. This is like, this is about, 20, about 20 hours worth of class time. You could spend 20 hours just watching videos, or you could spend the same 20 hours watching this and see a whole system laid out for you. It's still 20 hours, but 120 hours is going to be like totally focused, totally systemic. And another 20 hours is just didn't teach you anything. And in fact, it confused you or taught you things that weren't true. And make no mistake, we hang on to these things. I know because I do readings for people and I listen to it all the time. I know I have this debilitated thing and Rahu is there. And I know that's terrible. And I've been telling myself this for years, but blah, blah, blah. It's like, first of all, it's not terrible. And you've been carrying this bad teaching around now forever. It hasn't helped you one bit. And in fact, it might even hurt you. So this is a big part of what this Jupiter moving to Aquarius, the sun moving into Aquarius and getting close to Jupiter is going to be a great opportunity for those of you. And by the way, that's why I'm talking to people watching this, because you're obviously interested in astrology. You should learn it correctly. And this is a great opportunity. If not for me, from someone else. And if not astrology, but other things, learn it. It's learning about your place in the cosmos. But as you can see also, by the time we get to the end of the month, again, the very end, this is the 28th. This is the last day. This is going to be more for the March forecast, obviously. But look at this. Real pile up here. On this day, it's even the moon, like the new moon here, almost. This will be Mahashivaratri, I believe, will be this. This is the Chaturdashi. No, this will be Chaturdashi right here, I believe, 1629. Yeah, that'll be Mahashivaratri. Is probably like March 1st. But so you can see here, the end of the month, this is the 26th and the 27th. Okay, we got 28 days this year. So again, by the end of the month, there's going to be a big shift here into Capricorn while the other planets are hanging out there in Aquarius. But so this is big, sort of overview of February 2022. And Shauna said, would the weekend course be prerequisite for the certification course? No. It's an overview, but it's also for people who have taken the certification course before to go back over it again and hear all the material laid out again. Most of the people that have registered already are people who've already taken a lot of courses with me, and those, in fact, who have gone through the certification course because it's laid out again. Again, you get to revisit the material again because people study and then they kind of get away from it. Their life goes away. Well, this is a way to call people back and also to get my latest insights because I'm always learning more. I'm always unfolding the material in a more profound and succinct way. So it's a way to, really just sort of come back. And it's only $79. I mean, this is an enormous amount of teaching. I over deliver, not to mention the bonus classes. So, and you get to not just hear from me, but you get to hear from Dr. Melanie Iyer, Elise de Villiers, Alexis Cox, Casey Scott. These are great astrologers in themselves who have studied with me. So you should really take advantage of this if you're interested in that, for sure, because it's definitely something that will only pay dividends regardless of where you're at. So anyway, we'll just leave it at that. And I thank you for showing up today.